guys, this is Doug. Welcome back to What's the Hazard? It is Friday, August 11th. We're sitting here in Omaha, Nebraska. Pretty nice morning, actually. I got in late last night. My buddy Chris Bryant and I were training down in St. Louis, and we trained all day. We did another 30-hour class down there, trained all day, went to the airport, got in Omaha about 12 and got home about 12:30. Then you got to sneak in the house, because if you set off the dogs, then everybody gets awakened, and my wife does not like that, I'm asleep for 3 hours and you come dragging in. It was great. We had a good week. I appreciate it. I got a new shirt from my friends at Green Plains, so thank you for the shirt. Got a new hat from my friends at Liquid Trucking.
Look at you, NASCAR over here.
It is, man. I love it. What's yours?
Outdoorsman, I think.
Outdoorsman. I like it. Very cool.
Yeah.
I got a new mug from my nephew Grant and my niece Hannah, my great nephew Jack, and we got some products here from Wilderness Athlete that we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
My guest is Ben Honig.
Yes. And
we were just introduced via
Chris Bryant.
Yeah, Chris Bryant, the guy that introduces everybody.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure, man. I kind of hit you at the last minute. I apologize, but you were really gracious in accepting the invitation. So thank you for being here. I'm going to go through your title and then you can correct me.
Okay.
You are like a regional safety manager.
Yeah.
For Kiewit.
That's right. Sprinkler Group.
Yeah. That's Kiewit. I mean, everybody knows Kiewit.
Yeah, except outside of Omaha. It's the biggest company nobody's ever heard of.
Right? I think that's probably an accurate description, man.
And then the Sprinkler Group even gets more confusing, but we can get into that.
Okay, we can talk a little bit about it. Yeah, thank you very much,
this
man.
Is fun. I've listened to a few of the podcasts, and
you don't have to say that.
Yeah,
it's all right.
They're entertaining. It's some of those guys. They get pretty technical.
Some of them do, and some of them are really interesting. And so I would really love to hear about you in the Sprinkler Group. I would like to hear a little bit about how you got into safety. Of course, everybody kind of talks about their journey. You're a young man. I mean, you are deceptively old relative to, you look like you're like right out of college, man. Whatever you're doing. Is it this stuff?
I quit. Yeah, it's the Wilderness Athlete.
Excellent. I'm gonna drink all of these this afternoon.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So talk a little bit about what got you onto this chair here in a safety podcast.
Well, really, I guess the short story, the long part of the story is the track and field background. I played soccer most of my life and got to a point in high school that I literally walked across the street from soccer practice and joined the track and field team.
And this is where you were living in
Glenwood, Iowa, and a junior at the time, and realized I was pretty good at high jump.
Okay.
And so after my junior and senior year, I had already won 2 state titles.
What?
And
after starting your junior year, you won the state championship the year you joined the track team.
I did.
Holy shit, man. Good for you.
And set some school records in the high jump and long jump. Got some attention from some big schools. Got those letters in the school mail. Sent some to Harvard.
Wow.
But didn't have the grades for Harvard, of course.
Or the temperament, probably.
Yeah. So, growing up in, rural America, horse farm, Iowa State seemed like the logical choice when they offered a scholarship.
Fantastic.
So I went to Iowa State and my coach was like, what do you want to major in? Really had no clue. I was thinking maybe going to Milford or something, join the trades, but I suggested engineering and he just kind of laughed at me because of the grades and the heavy math and science and things like that. And they suggested industrial technology, which at the time was a department, part of the Department of Education, where shop teachers would go get formal training, right? And so my first couple of years at Iowa State, I had woodworking and metals and welding. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
But within that department, they had 2 disciplines: manufacturing and safety. Manufacturing is where you'd go do like the AutoCAD, industrial design, lean processing. And then safety was focused around general industry and with a little bit of construction. And so the safety to me was my route to stay near construction, stay around manual labor type atmospheres,
things you're familiar with, certainly.
Yeah, and cool. Actively engaged in the process. And and being outside, right? And so my first call upon graduation, I called Hawkins. And this is no knock on Hawkins, but one of the first questions I was asked is how well I could handle a fatality in the workplace.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was Charlie Walling, and
no, I understand.
Yeah. And great guy. I'm unsure if he's still with us or not, but
well, he's not with Hawkins any longer. He was the nemesis of every OSHA guy in the Omaha area.
Yeah, and I could understand my brief experience with him. I could understand why. After that interview, he goes, "You need to go talk to Jerry Campos at Kiewit."
Really?
And so being familiar with Kiewit, even as a kid, going to the zoo and seeing the black and yellow, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, and had a great interview with them and spent the first 3 months in Omaha. And I kept asking, I want to get out of the office because I was kind of helping Jerry doing the documentation side of things. And then they got me on my first project, which was in Alaska. So,
oh my gosh,
C-17 aircraft maintenance complex. Almost a $80 to $100 million job for the Air Force on Elmendorf Air Force Base.
So you were building this facility?
Yes.
That was the Kiewit project, was to construct this facility.
2 C-17s could pull in dual hangars.
Wow.
One can get painted. There's a paint booth for a C-17.
Whoa. That is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
That is enormous.
And then the other one was just general maintenance.
Okay.
And so that was the first of several projects in Alaska.
Wow, man. Oh, that is incredible. First of all, it's incredible that Charlie knew that you were not a good fit for Hawkins, perhaps.
Yeah.
And sent you to Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a colleague of ours. I've known Jerry for years and years. I find that interesting. He thought you would be a better fit, perhaps, at Kiewit.
Mm-hmm.
That was fortuitous.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah. And that was kind of the time where I think the title of a construction safety manager or supervisor was kind of unheard of, but these companies were starting to invest in more safety than just a guy, right? A company director or a regional guy, more boots on the ground. We're going to put them with this project, right? Whether it's these old mega jobs where it used to be 300 to 400, 500 million, that seems like just an average job now. Now we're, Kiewit's getting $6 billion contracts and, doing these LNG plants and energy projects. So,
wow, that is remarkable. I remember, my time with OSHA, I was kind of the OSHA liaison to some of those big Kiewit projects here in town, the convention center, the Holland Performing Arts, Blue Cross Blue Shield, some really spectacular projects, which are just like a weekend activity now for Kiewit. It sounds like just something we'll do in our spare time.
That's right.
That is remarkable. Let's go back to Iowa State. How high can you jump? What was your state record in?
The highest I jumped was 6'9". That was our school record.
Really?
And then you
at Iowa State?
Yeah, and that was
6'9".
That was just natural ability. But in the Big 12, kids from Texas, Nebraska, Kansas State were going like 7'5", 7'7". And so just to have the front row seat to some of those athletes in the Big 12 was really cool. But
these were guys that had been jumping their entire life with private coaching and year round.
Yeah.
And you just ran out there and just jumped over them.
Yeah, here I am. I'll try this too. And, the natural ability ran out, but, got a great opportunity to get a great education.
Iowa State's a great school, man.
Yeah. And
you have a degree that in safety.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's a mouthful. It's a degree in industrial technology with an emphasis in occupational safety.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never even had a safety class in my life. Right. I've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah. And it seemed like it was, you learn compliance driven safety in those classes, and they try intimidating you with, the experienced grizzled construction guy and what are you going to do with him? And
Charlie Walling, for example.
Yeah. And you learn real quick, and if you were to go back, like probably should have paid more attention in psychology, probably should have minored in safety, probably should have took more communication, technical writing classes.
That is a brilliant observation.
Yeah, because the OSHA regulations, you can just memorize them.
Yeah, I can teach a chimp the OSHA regulations and have.
Yeah.
But the aspects of human behavior that you just touched on, the psychology. I, in fact, wish I would have taken, I took a psychology class and I know I slept through it because
Right.
it wasn't even remotely related to my
Yeah.
degree. So I had no interest in it, but those are truly.
I mean, even like sales, marketing, persuading people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, you're dealing with executives and you're dealing with laborers and everything in that spectrum. I want to say in between. It's not a top down thing. It's, it's just people in their element.
Yeah.
And knowing how to.
Yeah.
That is so, I am really impressed, man.
That's where.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And that's like a whole conversation on its own.
It is.
Part 2, right?
Yeah. Part 2. We'll talk about that again. So, so you worked with Jerry for a while in Omaha just to get familiar with the Kiewit lingo, probably. And
And Terry White.
Oh, yeah. Terry White, of course. Oh, my God, man.
Still, I just had lunch with him last week.
Did you?
Yep.
Is he still with the company?
No, he retired.
I thought
He retired maybe 2013-ish.
Yeah, that's about the time I left OSHA, as I recall. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's in Omaha, or where did you?
He's in Omaha. Yeah.
Oh,
doing great.
Well, I know Terry won't listen because he's probably less technically adept than I. But yeah, hello, Terry. It's good to hear your name, man. Yeah. And I interacted with Terry often back in those days.
A smaller water bottle.
Oh, you're okay, man. There is nothing. You can't do anything wrong here. So off to Alaska, they send you for a huge project.
Yeah.
And you were an outdoorsman. That's your nature. That's who you are. Until you got to Alaska.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. What was Alaska like?
Alaska's unbelievable. And like I told you in the lobby, if I was the kind of person I was today or I am today, I would most likely still be in Alaska. But coming out of college, you're still holding on to that social life, that bar scene, nightlife.
Sure.
And it's a big effort to really do anything in Alaska. You have to have a plan. You got to have communication, rescue. I mean, there's all these things that go into it. But, you ever fished at midnight before?
No, not that I unless I was catfishing or something and drinking beer.
Fishing is what I really got into up there.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the hunting, just because of the logistics of it. It's totally foreign, right?
The prey up there can hunt you back too, I think, right?
Yeah. I had a buddy, we were camping, and I don't know, we're like 50 miles off the road somewhere on 4-wheelers, and there's a sow with 2 cubs, grizzly bears, up on the ridge during the day. We're setting up camp, and he's sleeping with his 50 cal.
Mm-hmm, I'm sure.
Just on his chest.
Yeah,
so,
I'll bet.
Sleep with both eyes open type of a thing. Never know what's going to happen.
I can remember, I have a good friend, Steve Moyer. He and I, we had worked at Terracon together. We used to go out into Quetico Provincial Park up north of the Boundary Waters, and we would canoe up there, and we would fish for a week or two, totally remote. And they have black bears, which are certainly not brown bears, not grizzlies.
Yep.
But I can remember, and they would not allow you to carry weapons, guns, I should say, specifically into Canada.
Right.
So we would carry big knives, of course, thinking that we're going to go out there and fight some bear with a big knife.
You just got to be faster than your buddy.
Yeah, exactly. That actually is a true statement. I know it's kind of a joke but it's a true statement.
Well, we after C-17, we then did the Anchorage Sport Fish Hatchery. It was the largest indoor fish hatchery of its kind in North America.
Oh my God.
And part of that, Ship Creek's a river that goes right through downtown Anchorage. You can fish for salmon in downtown Anchorage. And they had some bear sightings, grizzly bear sightings, because there's a golf course. It backs up to the military base. So there's just a lot of protection there. So we said, you guys go down and do your water testing for runoff in pairs, and you take bear spray. And they're both native Alaskans. And they're like, what's this going to do? Can we just carry our sidearms like we normally do? I'm like, I don't know. We're at work, and you got to just carry the bear spray. And if anything happens, Kyler, you spray JT in the face, incapacitate him, and run. Right. You got to sacrifice somebody.
Kick him in the knee.
Yeah. So
I like it. And was that a written policy, or was that just something that you just
verbally gentleman's agreement?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that is so funny, man. So you were headquartered basically in Anchorage.
That's
where you were stationed.
Did a few years in Anchorage, and then we got some military work up in Fairbanks. So we went up there, did some work in Fairbanks for a few years.
Wow.
Got to spend a summer on the Kenai Peninsula. People spend their whole life trying to visit the Kenai once, right? And that's what's cool about Alaska is people think it's this grand once in a lifetime vacation, and try to go up every 2-3 years.
So how long were you up there in total? How long were you?
6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
And that changed who you are.
Yeah, I think Terry, back to Terry, he gave me tons of opportunities, right? A great mentor.
Yeah, he is.
The team up there, they work, so you learn what it's like to put in 15-hour days, 6 days a week type of thing. And,
right.
But then just the people in Alaska, detached from the lower 48, it's like, let us take care of ourselves. Everything that happens in the major cities, we feel, are irrelevant to us here, even in Omaha, but it's even more so in Alaska, right? And everybody's, it's snow machines, it's not snowmobiles, it's you're hunting for subsistence to fill the freezer,
not just for trophies or not just for bragging rights.
Yeah. And then you watch these hunting shows, these primo shows, and they show these guys out caribou hunt and moose hunt, and it's like, well, there's 6 guys in the group and one person in the video got something, right? The ability to find the animals and it's just different.
It's real hunting.
It's vast wilderness. Colorado, you get lost, you go over the next ridge. Oh, there's town.
Right.
Maybe 2 ridges. There's town. There's a trail. There's a road.
Yeah.
In Alaska, you go and go and go and find nothing.
No signs of humanity whatsoever.
Yeah, you might run into a village or something.
That's brilliant.
Like that, but
yeah, that's fantastic. Now I would die within the first 8 hours if I was left alone out there, but I can appreciate the majesty of that, what that must be like.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
So when did you get the hunting bug then? I mean, while you were up there, or
yeah,
because you do this remote caribou big
I worked with a lot of guys that hunted, and the thing with Alaska is people are very particular on who they hunt with and where their hunt spots are. They've spent decades dialing in the right hunt spot, and you finally start getting these invites, and once people trust you and you make time for them and they make time for you, and caribou hunting and moose hunting, and never got into the sheep hunting. There's 3 species up there that require you to either be a resident to hunt, or you have to have a licensed guide as a non-resident. To go dull sheep hunting in Alaska, I mean, people are paying $20,000-$30,000 for a one-on-one guided opportunity, and I missed an opportunity to do it for next to nothing. Right. So there's some, I wouldn't say regrets, but some things you could have done better, differently, right? Taken advantage of, but
6 years isn't a huge amount of time when you're working 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. I mean, probably had a lot of opportunities that most of us will never have, but you can't get them all in. Man.
The best thing was to get out of small town, Midwest, small town, Iowa, get out of your routine, get out of your group of friends, and really just expand your horizons. I mean, just to see a whole different world. I didn't even know what was possible in Alaska. They're like, hey, you want to go to Alaska? And the first thing that pops in your head is like sled dogs, igloos, and cold, right? It's like, wait, Anchorage is a real city. And that's, it's just naive college kid, right?
But as you said, I mean, the normal route that most of us take after college is a very social, you're still going out to bars, you're still doing that interact, but you get into a place like Alaska, perhaps, and I don't know this. I've been to Alaska, but I did the family cruise in Alaska, where you cruise up the passage and you stop and you do your little excursion. Maybe you go out and stand on a glacier and take your picture and run back because it's cold.
Chauffeur you over here.
Exactly.
Over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was magnificent, but it wasn't really Alaska. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than just
try spending, 5 winters there.
Amazing, man. Amazing. So from Alaska, you've been elsewhere with Kiewit now.
Yeah. While I was still in Alaska, they sent me to the Big Island of Hawaii for several weeks to help finish up a job for the Corps of Engineers. There's a heavy artillery weapons range. So the Kiewit Infrastructure Group, Northwest District, was assigned to basically this big civil job for Pahakaloa Marine Base, I believe. Right at the base of, right between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa.
I think I have a nephew stationed over there right now, in fact.
Yeah.
At that naval marine base, actually.
Yeah. So that was cool. but that was just real short. And then,
did you enjoy your time in Hawaii, or how was that experience? Different than Alaska,
yeah,
obviously.
and it's different when you're working there, because it's like you're working 7 to 7, and the sun's up at 7, the sun's down at 7, but you're kind of missing the sunrises and the sunsets. And, not a lot of beach activity.
It's not like vacationing.
Yeah.
You're not vacationing.
You're flying over there, everybody's drinking Mai Tais on the airplane, and you're in steel-toed boots and a polo, right?
Exactly.
The standard issue office attire. But like I said, it was short-lived, but, a different opportunity. And I had come from Alaska in the wintertime, Fairbanks, to the island where, our local craft, everybody lives around the beach, around the coast in Hawaii, whether it's Kona, Waikolo Village, Waimea. And they were up in the mountains. I mean, Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa are like some of the biggest mountains in the world, even compared to Everest, right, from the base. And they get snow. You can sometimes sled in the morning, snowboard, ski in the morning, unofficially, and then go surf in the afternoon, right? And so I think one morning up there at the job, it was 60 degrees while we're doing stretch and flex. And these guys got their hoodies up and they got gloves on, long sleeves, and they're trying to do their arm pull, and they're shivering. And I come from Fairbanks where it was like 40 below and it's over 100-degree temperature change. And I'm in t-shirt, and they're who's this guy? And and I, like,
that is so funny. I have relatives, I love them dearly, that live in Southern California. And if they even bother to come to Nebraska, which they rarely do, they're always in a parka. I don't care what time of year it is. They're in a parka or something. If they came in August, they might take the parka off.
Southern California, they dress for what it is right now and not anticipate what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
Like parka now, long johns now.
Yeah.
Even though I'm going to get hot later, they don't just now, right now.
And
feel good now.
Regardless of the time of year, if we go out there to visit, I bring shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah.
Because I've never been uncomfortable in shorts and t-shirts in California, ever.
Yeah.
Even on Mammoth Mountain, when we were skiing, shorts and a t-shirt, basically.
Why not?
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And so from there, you just did a short stint in Hawaii.
Yep.
Back to Alaska then?
Back to Alaska. Ended up getting my CSP in Alaska.
I saw that.
Yep.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. For someone who it's funny, I actually just had to relearn. I didn't learn any math or retain any math from college or anything like that. So it just took a couple of those prep classes, and a good prep instructor will be very honest and say, you're not trying to ace this thing. Just pass it.
Just pass it.
Right?
That was the advice I got as well.
And, like I said, took the ASP, and I was never a good test taker. It's always like they're trying to trick me. You think it, and it's like, this is too easy. I don't know this. And it's like, it's clearly the answer, but
there's a catch. There's something.
They're throwing a curveball, but knocked that out. Got moved to Denver then.
Okay.
So,
which is that one of the divisions of Kiewit? Is headquartered in Denver? How does that work?
So the way Kiewit's broken out, you got Kiewit Corporation, who then there's about 30 different operating districts.
Okay.
And if you wanted to even be more generalized, there's energy and there's infrastructure.
Okay.
But over the past several years, they've been trying to break down those silos to where Kiewit operates as a one company. So like one project will have multiple internal joint ventures, right?
Interesting.
So you got, whether it's just personnel from a district helping out on the job, whether it's the technical experience that a district can bring to a job. There's all kinds of different ways they do that. And then I primarily, to this point in my career, have been working with Kiewit Building Group.
Okay.
Right. Yep. So Kiewit Building Group is be like your Hensel Phelps, your Turners, J.E. Dunn's, vertical commercial construction, right?
Yeah.
And so at the time, they have DC and Texas markets that need covered, because the Corps of Engineers on the East Coast is who we're working for on this RSFO work, and they need a CSP oversight as part of their contract requirements. And so I do the back and forth from Denver, Texas to DC for a little bit. And then I take over Colorado. and then which is just a lot of commercial building work.
Okay.
And then my peer at the time, Ron Kovo, who started the Denver VA, if you ever have heard of that job, you know, the job that started out as a $600 million proposal ends at just shy of $2 billion by the time it's done. Right. So Ron had spent most of his time with Kiewit on this job, getting it going, getting it started, building the team, building up the safety culture. And then, but he never had any real Kiewit only because it was a joint venture with Turner. So they had Ron come out of the joint venture to do Kiewit, Colorado, the Kiewit Building Group stuff. And I became a project director for for that mega job. Was
that your overrun? That 600 million to 2 billion? Was that
no?
Like
that was
just a rounding error or something?
Safety spending, yeah. You know, so we, you know, obviously there's, you know, a lot of the hard work had been done by Ron, but there's still things to finish, right? There's we had a big turnover where the Corps of Engineers came in and took over for the VA, and then we got some new subcontractors on site, and it was really this new phase of the project saying, okay, now we're going to get done, right? There is the light at the end of the tunnel has been turned back on, and let's get her done. Right?
Interesting, yeah.
So, and then after we did that, they brought me here to Omaha to finish up Stratcom.
Oh, okay.
So,
is that still in progress? You're working on that now, or has that been concluded? You're done?
That's done.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some other things behind the scenes, I think, happening, but above my pay grade.
Okay. But now you are here in Omaha again, or you're back in the Midwest?
Back in the Midwest, out of Omaha. And then part of, you know, we were able to finish Stratcom with our internal recognition at Kiewit is a Goose Egg Award. It's being able to take a project or a district without recordable injuries for that year. And we did, I think it was somewhere around 350 or 400,000 craft hours without a recordable at Stratcom.
Good
right?
for you, man.
So that gets noticed, right?
Of course.
And then they had an opportunity where there's 3 sprinkler businesses within Kiewit, and they were all operating individually. And so they said, let's bring them together as one safety unit and call it Kiewit Fire Sprinkler Group. But we need a district safety guy for that. And so the opportunity came, my name came up, and here I am.
Good for you,
right?
man.
So,
you're going to be living in one of those big houses at Shadow Ridge pretty soon, aren't you?
No, I would go more down the minimalist line.
Okay, I was going to say,
much house.
But I mean, you have really done well within Kiewit. It seems like it's been a good place for you.
Yeah,
some interesting projects.
Yeah,
they continue to give you more leadership, authority, that kind of thing. More.
Yeah, and it's a lot of like-minded people, right? It's you got people who are, hey, we know why we're here. We know why we work for this company. We're driven.
Right.
We constantly need more. What's next? Right. How can we do better? How can you be better than your yesterday self type mentality? Right. And
I love that.
And we have a lot of things going on at Kiewit Safety, but I think it's all deliberate, right? It's very calculated. It's not just noise. It's not just what does OSHA think we need? What does the industry think we need? What's going to make us look good in the eyes of social media? It's
intentional.
What do our people need?
Right.
Because we're also finding ourselves in less, not when I say ourselves, I say like the industry, less and less self-perform work and more subcontractor management, right? And so it's easy for a lot of companies to say, these are our rules, but you really have no craft or frontline employees to maybe trial and error some of that stuff with. So Kiewit, we self-perform a ton of work. We have a lot of craft out there, somewhere around probably 10 to 15,000 craft employees doing all kinds of different scopes of work, anything from union, non-union. Even the sprinkler group, Continental is a union sprinkler company. Arrow is a non-union sprinkler company. And then we have Jet. It's a pipe fabrication facility.
Oh, okay.
Right. So they're threading and welding and fabbing sprinkler pipe. So,
okay.
So we got just right there three different.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah. And then
Construction, manufacturing, union, non-union.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
Yeah.
dynamic.
Depending on the market, right? Depends on which part of the company goes where, right? Whether it's, I know Texas is a big non-union state. So there's a lot of non-union work there. Whereas like you go to KOS or Kiewit Offshore Services, right? That's just a 300, 400 acre fab yard for offshore oil rigs, right? And then they're always there. And then you get these other Kiewit companies that you need a bridge here, here, and here, but they're thousands of miles apart. So you get done with this one, you go to that one, right? There's people constantly traveling for the company as well.
Yeah.
And then building group is staying around those centralized markets: Omaha, Denver, DC, Seattle, Honolulu.
Okay.
Right. Same thing with Continental. But then Continental and Aero, the whole fire sprinkler group, now we're working for everybody. We just had a statistic in one of our operations meetings where like 2% of our sprinkler group work is actually with Kiewit. The rest of our contracts, like, several hundred of them are with everybody, right? I mean, you could see a fire extinguisher hanging in the hallway right now with Continental Alarm and Detection on it, right? Or we can be up at
those
Wells.
have nothing to the 98% have nothing to do with Kiewit jobs.
No.
You are you're your own entity, and you are working directly with these other.
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic, man.
And I mean, there's people that know that Kiewit owns us, but they hire for the service and for the credibility, right? So
that is really interesting. That's actually probably keeping you really busy.
Yeah, and it's kind of twofold. I think one of my aha moments in my career was when you're a general contractor or a construction manager and you have these subs, you instantly think these subs need you, and you have to tell them what to do, and you have to protect them because they're subs, right? They're
incapable.
Yeah, they're incapable. They're overly critical.
Yeah.
And so some of the aha moments you find, it's like Kiewit life changes all the time, whether it's a new job, a new location, new personnel, new subcontractors, low bid, design. That's what's awesome about construction is it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. Nothing stays the same. But these subcontractors, they're the same with or without us, right? So like one example was E&K of Denver, right? They're working with us at the VA. They were having a hard time doing our hazard analysis process. And then I'm like, well, what do you guys do? Right. We had their executives come in because they're having injuries. They're having, accountability issues. So we had their executives come in and they said, this is what our safety program looks like. And you're like, wow. Right. Whether you guys are able to fully implement that, proficiently, you're at least saying the right things and you have the right buzzwords, you have the right programs, and you're evolving, right? So instead of trying to do ours for this one job you're doing with us, what if we do like their hazard analysis, or was their take 5, right? So it's like, okay, instead of holding you accountable to do our stuff, we're now going to hold you accountable to do yours, right?
I love that.
Because you regardless if you work for us or not, you guys should be doing a take 5 regardless of who you work for.
Right.
So
no doubt.
We're going to help you do your program on our job.
Right. Well, if you've done a good job in the pre-selection, pre-qualification process, you're selecting subs that obviously have integrated these systems and they're doing them. So to make them change to yours, it might be a little bit overly micromanaging, perhaps. I mean, if they're capable of doing it themselves.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And that's where you really see behind the curtain as a true subcontractor now coming to the fire sprinkler group, because I have 4 different hard hats for 4 different, 5 different, 6 different contractors, right? Do you want the chin strap? Do you want vented, non-vented? Do you want regular hard hats? We got a client that wants a chin strap hard hat that's high vis. So now we have to get rid of our red to go to high vis, and we get hung up sometimes on, here's our JHA. It's like, we want an AHA, and, cut level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here we are, we got it all. And here's our baseline. We'll go up will never go down, but we have to remain flexible. So if we go work for a White's, right, it's a Cut 4 with a safety helmet.
That's pre-established. That's what White's expects.
That's their new thing this year. If you go work for J.E. Dunn at Google, right, it's Cut 4 safety helmet. But if you go work for J.E. Dunn outside of Google, it's just a regular hard hat, right? And so chasing that game can get frustrating because I think we lose sight of what are we really doing here, especially when we get into the alphabet soup.
Yeah, that's a forest for the trees thing, man. You get fixated on those minor details.
And I think the conversation to the safety helmets, I think there's plenty of value there. Unsure if it's the right intentions, but it's definitely
to some degree it becomes kind of the flavor of the day thing. Or this is the new shiny object thing, and let's make sure we're doing it for the right reasons and we're getting out of it what we're needing.
Yeah, and it's easy. Adding PPE to your to-do list is the easiest thing anybody can do to show improvement on a job, right?
Yeah.
Whereas engineering things out and going through the whole hierarchy, it's building relationships with your guys and spending time in the field, and
like those behavioral issues, how to, you know, engaging and enlisting their actual buy-in.
And that's where I think, you asked earlier, what sets Kiewit safety apart?
That's the question.
It's like, one, we're so big, right? And we've been around for so long. We work with some of the best companies in the world, whether it's Exxon or Caterpillar or, a variety of energy companies. And they're humble. The executives at Kiewit are humble enough that it's like, how do we, what advice do you guys have?
Right. What can we learn from these?
Yeah. Looking at Exxon,
great companies.
Exxon's a huge company and they got a lot of good safety ideas. Intel, we do a lot of work with Intel from a sprinkler standpoint. They got a lot of good things going on. But we, like I said, we're very deliberate and calculated, but you see it in the field, right? You see everybody owning it. And I get it. There's outliers and there's people that struggle like any other business. But I'd say the consistency of our ability to get out with our craft employees and build those relationships, safety just starts to become part of the process, right? Part of the routine versus something you have to go out and do and check the box, right? It's just integrated into everything.
Well, and I love that philosophy and that approach. And I've kind of adopted that of late. I was always a compliance guy and, looked at everything from a compliance mindset. But in the last few years, I've been reading more of some of these new philosophies and these new approaches to safety. And I'm curious, when you started in this world, probably there were still safety cop approaches to safety in those days. And I know that we briefly communicated the fact that you're young and you're obviously soaking up so much information. How are you guys implementing or at least including some of those safety 2 approaches to how Kiewit practices safety?
I'd say our biggest success has been our craft voice and safety concept, right? We call it Civis, right? It goes through that evolution. I believe you even talked about on one of your podcasts on being deliberate with kind of the words we use, right? We like to involve people, right? And it's kind of like we've already got our mind made up,
right?
And I went to a contractor safety event or whatever. It was a meeting with all the trade partners, and it was like, what do you guys think of this? Like, it's too late. You've already sent the memos out,
right?
It's like, what are we doing here? Just to tell us that you had a meeting, that these are the new rules, and you were all here, like,
right? So
there's the involvement, right? So the timeline is, hey, involve the craft. Like, that's kind of like the safety committee route, right? And then there's the engage them, right? We had this program back in like 2010 called Engage Your Employees. And it was this awkward interview thing where it's like, what's your name? How old are you? What do you like to do for a living? What's your favorite color? And like, what are you doing? Like forcing these people to get out versus I don't need to do this because I know these guys. I've taken the time to learn from them and get to know them. And I get it. Everybody's different. Right. And some people are, naturally drawn to building relationships
without question.
Some people just are less motivated to engage in social situations, but But the key is to get to that ownership word, right? And so with Civis, it gives, in its fundamental nature, we have guidelines for it, right, to keep it in check and to keep it how we can manage it and observe it.
Kind of keep it on the rails to some degree.
But in its truest, simplest form, it's the people who are on the front lines are the ones that are going to be using the ladder. They're going to be the ones in the equipment. They're going to be the ones getting hurt. They're going to be the ones, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, the sharp end of the stick. It's
not the superintendent. It's not the project manager. It's not the operations guy. And so when you put a tool in their hand, is this the right tool for the job? What do you need from me? Right. And the first thing a safety guy, an operations guy, a superintendent needs to understand is your job is to provide an environment for your people to be successful. And at the end of the day, do they have all the tools? Right. If they have the best ladder or multiple ladders, right? When I came over to the fire sprinkler group, we kind of had one or two ladders to do the job.
Everybody was issued the same 8-foot ladder or whatever.
And now we have like 7 or 8 different kinds, different brands, get you into different situations. And we just ask that it's now your job to pick the right ladder, right? We provide it. We'll help you understand how to use it. Yeah. But we're giving you options, right? So instead of 2 things to solve 20 things, we now have several different things to help you navigate through, especially in such a complex work environment like our group.
And so how does that work then? Does the project manager, when you are prepping for the job, just make those kind of determinations? Obviously that evolves on the project as they learn. They might
I think so. Yeah. And the Kiewit jobs are different, but it's, again, how well a job can set up and get kicked off is always going to be kind of the metric of how well can you finish, right? Yeah. And so the other thing so the Civis concept is how well we get the craft to take ownership, right? Instead of a carpenter saying, hey, this handrail's broken, fix it. It's like, I would ask you to fix it. You're the carpenter, right? What are you asking for permission for, right? Right. Your kid says, hey, can I fill the family car up full of gas? And like, you need money? It's like, no, I was going to use my own because I've been driving. And you're like, geez, that's ownership.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not going to, it's just, and that's where, the word empowerment starts to develop and guys start taking, actions for their own.
Yeah. They take it upon themselves and just address it.
Yeah. Or they start speaking up and having side conversations. And, we first, we used to have these safety lunches where we'd run through these pictures in Alaska, right? And the foreman would come in from all the trade partners, and then they would, they'd go back out to work, and we would expect them to go address it, but a foreman's got shit to do.
Right.
So we asked them, hey, bring a craft guy with you, one of your guys. So the foreman would go back to work, and then the craft guy would go back to whoever he was working with. Like, hey, where were you? I was at lunch. What'd you guys talk about? And then, it starts kicking off like, well, they're saying we need to have more observations, or, they've been having some temporary lighting issues, or the access is closed.
That is a really interesting comment. Yeah. I like that, because you are absolutely right about we overload these foremen anyway, and we bring them in and give them this list of stuff to fix.
Yeah.
And then send them out, and they immediately have to get back into the groove. They can't be taking another day off. That is really, I love that comment. That's interesting.
And then we, got into this, we called it mining the diamond, right? Because and I think a lot of other companies are starting to realize that, when you have lost time, days without a lost time posted out in front of your facility or job, like, to me, that's meaningless. Like, you might as well have your death rate. That's going to be a better number, or maybe it's not,
At least it probably is more interest.
Right. But it's like, how many recordables have you had? But even that metric is getting, we're learning, right? Because I could have one stitch from a power tool incident or a knife incident, but a dude down the street about got lit up from a lockout tag injury, no injuries. OSHA doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
But they care about the one stitch.
Absolutely.
Put that on your log, right?
Totally.
And so we call those we call them life-saving actions or life-saving categories. So we have about 12 or 13 categories that are defined and historically have killed people. And the way it works is when you go through your planning process and you get everything in place, then you get we have a start card. It's our hazard analysis. And on the back, it's got all the categories. And then each one has a safeguard. And so say you're working at heights with fall protection, right? The first question is, has the fall protection permit been completed? The answer is no, you're not working.
Don't start.
Don't start,
Yeah.
right? Is the human equipment interaction pre-planning tool completed? If you're going to have, human equipment, or the work zones delineated, people and physically separated from heavy equipment, it's yes or no questions before they even go to work.
Get to proceed.
Right.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that yesterday in this training. That's excellent.
And so, that's our way of saying, and then, instead of working with these high risk, work yourself out of them. Right. So the one thing with fall protection that's been really great for us is instead of just throwing on a harness, before you can do it, you got to do a permit. But during this permit process, it's like, what if we just got some scaffold in there with some handrail? Great. Let's do
Eliminate the need for that fall protection in the first place.
Maybe we bid the job thinking a guy was going to do this with fall protection. So then that forces people to get better at the surveying and the estimating and factor in some of these things. Great story. It was actually with White's out in Des Moines. My project manager said, hey, we got to get on this catwalk. We put a ladder up and then we tie off there. I said, let's just price out scaffold. I think it was Safeway came in, gave us a bid. White's is like, we love it. And we rolled it in. Right.
Love it. Yeah.
And so it's like, let's just get rid of. And then there's this ladder, right? You're going to go up this ladder 10 feet. Now you're exposed. And someone's like, well, should we tie off on that ladder? I go, just have the scaffold guy build in a little corral. We got the guy here. What's an extra, 30 members of scaffold. So now we just got rid of fall protection completely.
That's outstanding.
And then you take that, people think, that permit's like more paper. And now it's like, we just threw the paper away. We don't need it. It was just a hold point for us to get involved, make sure we're doing this the right way, the best way, and get out of fall protection.
Yeah, I love that. That is fantastic. How are we doing for time?
10 minutes.
You wore your watch. I didn't. Thank you for doing that. Well, so we could go on and on. This is really good stuff, man. I want to do two things. Number one, talk about what we've got up front here, the Wilderness Athlete.
Yeah.
Give me 2 minutes on Wilderness Athlete. These are friend of yours?
They became friends of mine as a backcountry elk hunter. I kind of center my life around being able to go be physically fit, ready for the backcountry. And the concept is everybody can climb up the mountain day one, day two, maybe day three. It's getting a little harder. How do you do it for 9 days? How do you do it for 2 weeks? Right. So they provide a supplement. Somewhere along the line, they caught wind that we're using Gatorade, we're using Squencher, Powerade, water. And we only talk about hydration when it's hot. Right.
That's a great point.
And it's just, and really it's kind of fake. It's just another buzz campaign just to show we're doing something, right? Flavor of the month.
Oh man. Yeah.
So I ran into them. I think it was San Antonio ASSP, and they had a booth. And it was kind of like, what the hell are you guys doing here? So helping them through, they kind of got hung up on the heat related recordable stuff. Like how many recordables do you have? I said, you're asking the wrong questions. It's bigger than that. Right. So the conversations have started over the past several years, and it's really about how well can you get up and do it again? Right. Our craft workers, whether it's in the industrial processing plants or the manufacturing warehouses or the construction environment, they don't get a break. They don't play on Sunday and then go home for a week. They work for us. Then they go home and have to do life, kids, family, mow the lawn. Who knows what they were doing over the weekend, if they were camping, fishing, grilling, drinking. And can you do that on day one, day two, day three? What about Friday? How well are you physically, mentally here? And so we provide this to our guys year round, take it home.
So they just, in theory, you would drink it every day and just maintain that hydration level.
Yep. So the hydrate here is your, for those people that have seen like Liquid IV, Liquid IV's got a ton of sugar in it. This has 5 grams, but this is also adding your branch chain amino acids. So that's going to help with muscle repair and recovery.
Absolutely. Recovery.
It's
big
got all
deal.
your electrolyte replacements, glutamine, cognitive functions, right? And then
Good for you,
the
man.
red bag is their energy supplement.
Okay.
And so that has no artificial sweetener other than a little bit of sucralose, I think. But the sugar's like manageable in here because it's just natural sugar levels your body should get.
Right.
And let's be honest, it has to have a little bit of good taste.
Yeah, no doubt.
But and then it's, I mean, ideally providing this into our guys' hands, maybe a guy puts down a Diet Coke or a Red Bull or a Monster and picks this up, makes him more productive, doesn't crash.
Certainly better for him.
We have tons of people in the business who have adopted this personally and they've lost tons of weight.
No kidding.
Right? Give up a Diet Coke in the afternoon and pick up, if you mix them, it's called a Superman. It's good, right? So do a Superman in the afternoon instead of a Diet Coke.
You don't have that
You
crash.
still have the habit. You just have a substitute for a better alternative, right?
I love it.
So, like I said, we're transparent with our guys. Hey, if you're drinking, it's a great hangover deal because I need bright and alert Doug
right
Monday morning.
Right. No doubt. And I loved your comment that hydration is not just for the heat. I mean, for me, I have a heart condition that I can tell changes when I'm dehydrated.
Right.
And so just to maintain the cognitive function, all of those things are so dependent upon proper hydration, proper electrolyte balances.
Yep.
So I think this is a really good approach, man.
And that's that aspect of human performance to where, we hate,
We're getting the signal. Thank you, Dylan.
We're not in the military, but we can find parallels, right? We're not professional athletes, but we can find parallels. There's all kinds of cross-referencing and things from different industries we can take in. But I mean, ask yourself, we demand perfection every day from our guys. So what are we doing to help them even be prepared for that?
Yeah. Well, if we're with them 8-10 hours a day, and then we just kind of ignore their needs the remainder of that day, I think we're doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
And we're certainly kidding ourselves if we expect them to come in and to be able to perform at a high level.
And you know what? Supplementation is it helps, but then it's like providing that education on diet, sleep.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Things like that. So
one last thing, we got about a minute left. I want you to tell that story about Jerry Campos and the cut-resistant gloves. If you would, please. There are so many characters within the Kiewit family that I've had the pleasure of knowing over the years.
So this was when these Terminator gloves, I think cut-level gloves were starting to come out, and Jerry had a pack of them. I believe we were down at the TD Ameritrade project, and Jerry pulls up in his pool car, Kiewit company car, right? And handing out Terminator gloves to everybody. Terry Elder, who's been with Building Group for forever, great guy, great mentor.
Yeah.
Grabs one of the gloves, and Jerry's like, they're cut resistant. Give them a try. Throws it down on the hood of Jerry's car, pulls out his pocket knife and cuts it right in half, and leaves this big scratch through the middle of the hood. And he goes, I don't think they're cut proof at all. And he goes, I said cut resistant. There's obviously some F-bombs. And
man. But I can actually see that happening because I know both of those.
Yeah. And for anybody that knows that, I mean, I hope you get it.
That is a great story, man. This has been wonderful. I want to thank our buddy Chris Bryant for making the connection. Thank you for coming on short notice.
Easy.
I'm really impressed, man, which means absolutely nothing to you. But I used to fear that, things were not in good hands. But, man, you are a rock star.
Appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. And hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah. Get into the good stuff.
Get down into the nuts and bolts a little bit. That would be really interesting. I would love to do that at some time. So
hopefully we didn't ramble too much.
No, man, it's all about rambling. It's all about rambling.
Good.
We're right on time.
Perfect.
So have a great weekend.
You too.
And
it's a pleasure.
We'll stay in touch, and then hopefully we can do it again sometime.
I like it.
I appreciate it. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay hydrated, and get back to it Monday. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.